Hello, everyone. The travel ban in place at the moment is making life a little difficult for YouTubers. So I thought it might be an idea to try and interview a few other YouTubers and via the powers of technology. Obviously, the quality is going to be a little lower because we're going to be having a webcam chat. But I thought I'd have the first chat with Furious Driving, a former colleague we've worked together in the past, and I thought we'd have a nice chat about Rovers. So here we go. So here I am with Matt of Furious Driving. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Nice mug, nice plug. I let myself down.
Absolutely.
I have got my hoodies displayed, so there we go. Doing all the merchandise, nice and early.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, it's good to have you back in the country again, even
yeah.
if it isn't
Thank
easy
you.
to.
It's been quite the adventure, and timing-wise, very lucky, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, another week either way, you'd have been in proper trouble.
Indeed.
Uh,
So yeah, I need to explain. I'm currently holed up in my girlfriend's bedroom because I'm now stranded with my girlfriend. It's the biggest disaster possible. But nonetheless, I thought it might be nice to do a few interviews, and Furious Driving is going to be the first.
wow, it's an honour.
Yeah, and I thought today we might just talk about our favourite Rovers, really.
Well,
And
that's a long list. How long have you got?
yeah, I mean, it's. I wonder if we need to categorise it a bit because obviously Rover's history is so long and tortuous.
Oh,
We,
yeah.
we've both got Rover P6 ownership experience.
Hmm.
You probably rather more than me. I've had my fingers burnt a few times and run away screaming.
I've had about 28 years of Rover P6 ownership experience now, I think it is.
Mm,
1992, I bought one, and I've still got it. And that one is generally quite good, apart from the engine mounts have collapsed and the steering box doesn't work. But apart from that, it's a really good car.
mm.
And the one which hasn't got an engine. But apart from that, that's a really good car.
But aren't you building a rather special engine for it?
Yes, it's going to be a fast road 4.6 litre for that
Right.
one. It's very nearly. I think this 3 weeks off is going to be the perfect opportunity to actually get that from the floor behind the car back into the engine bay. I'm virtually in the last knockings of it. I just need to reattach the intake manifold, the water pump, and put it in the car.
Mm.
And that's it makes it sound like 10 minutes work, but it's probably about a week for me.
Yeah,
Of,
well, P6s is probably a good place to start because I guess to a lot of people they are kind of the ultimate classic Rover, if you like, the sort of
proper rover.
yeah before British Leyland. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I must say I also have a massive soft spot for P4s.
Oh, I do as well. Yeah, there's something so precise and nice about them.
Mm,
The gearbox is just so perfectly engineered, and the engine you can not hear it when it's idling.
yeah.
It's the perfect clunk of the doors. There's something beautiful about them.
Yeah, I
But
mean, you can't chuck one around the same way you can chuck a P6 around, but
no, no, different,
a
different
P4
experience
makes
entirely.
you wonder what the rush is. Just
Exactly. Yeah, you,
sit
you
back,
enjoy the ride.
yeah, enjoy the
You're
high
there.
driving position. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got the freewheel hubs on it as well, you can knock it into freewheel and just coast along
yeah.
virtually inside, which is probably not very safe, but
Well, this
it's
is
a
the
good
weird
feel.
thing, isn't it? We're told not to coast, and yet cars used to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a feature. It was an
Yeah,
advertised feature, but who knows? Who
I've
knows? But yeah,
never been entirely sure why Rover went down the freewheel route because
I think Rover, engineering-wise, they were engineering-led as a company, weren't they? Especially up
mm,
until '70s when BL took over. But I think they were magpies of ideas, and that's where the Land Rover came from. And the V8 Rover engine was a Buick engine. They absorbed any idea they came across, and they just kind of ran with it,
mm,
which is why I think they're kind of very much misrepresented in the public psyche, in that they're a bit of a boring, old-fashioned company. But in fact, they were the cutting edge. They were always with a fresh idea. Every generation, P4, P5, P6, it owed nothing to the previous generation. It was a completely clean sheet design
yeah,
with everything that was new and happening then and there. So,
yeah, and just find standards of engineering, and like you say, it's a shame because I think in later years the name has just become a bit of a joke, and unfairly
yeah,
so, I think.
it really has. Yeah, a byword for Mrs. Bucket style pretension when it's
Mm.
not. It was a good car that deserved the attention. But yeah.
So Rover SD1. Now, obviously, a
Mm,
much maligned car. A lot of people
yeah.
say it isn't a proper Rover, yet you've still got spanking behind it. You've still got the
And
same man,
yeah.
a very different brief, but
Oh
I
yeah.
still think the end result was actually a very good car.
Oh, it's a brilliant car. And unfortunately, it was nailed together by angry Brummies who didn't want to be there and would rather been in the pub,
Mm.
which is where the problem came in.
Well,
But no,
yeah.
it's designed by the same Rover team because it was a competition, wasn't it? It was Rover and Triumph, which is a perfect allocation of resources. Both designed a car virtually to completion, and then the boss said, "I'll have that one."
Yeah.
So they could have had two cars running into as two different brands at that point, but they chose only to build one of them.
Yes, I mean,
So it was really a Rover.
we could run down an entire wormhole of what happened to British Leyland. And maybe that's a topic for a future video in itself, because
Yeah,
we could discuss that a lot. But yeah,
oh yeah,
certainly
yeah,
the SD1 was a car for a very different world with very different
it was.
requirements.
Oh, very much. It was a simpler car.
Yeah, I think the P6 really highlighted that perhaps Rover was a bit too much engineering led.
Yeah, they're so complicated.
But then
I
this
can't imagine.
was the time you look at the magazines and the world at the time. The magazines were geared up for people who knew a lot about cars and what they were buying.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I think as we've moved on, more people have got into cars who don't really care. They just want it from here to here and minimum fuss.
Yeah, as long as your phone can connect to it, that's all they care about.
Yeah, but even by the 1970s, I don't think too many people would put up an SD1 because it didn't have the engineering of a P6. Proper petrol heads, maybe, but
yeah, they'll be going for the V8.
Who just wants to go to his work meeting would just go, well, yeah, it's got wheels and an engine.
Yeah, put a nice velour in it. I'll have that. Mm. You were with me in that place in Holland where we looked at the the XK 120 or 140 brochure, and it said first remove the engine in the owner's hand. So, wow, okay. Don't take the spark plugs out. So yeah.
So
it's a different world
in some ways, you could argue the SD1 is actually better because it perhaps more clearly met the requirements of its buyers.
Potentially, yeah. It was more practical at the hatchback, which people wanted by that point. It's easier to get into. It's less maintenance in terms of everyday servicing. Yes,
remembering that the Dion rear axle on the P6 and the inboard brakes and not very DIY friendly.
No, wonderful to use, but I think that I'm happy to take the engine out of a P6, but I won't do the rear pads. So, they're not at all fun in that respect. And the front suspension, trying to change the front shocks on it is a 3-man job with expertise and special tools. It's not anything you can do in your own driveway.
Off the wall, it just becomes overly complex.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful piece of engineering, but it's engineering for engineering's sake almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So. But I've got an interesting video coming up actually. When I was in Tasmania, I stayed with someone who owned both a P6 and a Citroen DS.
Oh really?
And
that's kind of my
very interesting to drive the two back to back. So some exciting content to come there. I think.
Yeah, I know that when DSs and P6s were more popular or more common when I first had mine in the 90s, I actually mistook DSs for my P6 in car parks when I sort of see them, the roof line across a row.
Yeah, the roof line, the glass area. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll walk over and go, oh, hang on, that's a Citroen. So yeah, a lot is borrowed in there. So yeah,
I harbour a dream of doing a video one day where I get a base unit P6 next to a base unit DS. So both completely stripped down. Yeah. I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I'll come and hold the camera for you on that one because that sounds good.
Brilliant.
A few years ago on Classics Monthly, we actually did a shoot where we did that only with P6s. Though we got a V8 and a 4-cylinder and a rolling base unit, and did a 3-car shoot. One car was only a base unit. I was very glad I managed to persuade the editor to let us do that one.
Yeah, excellent.
But, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because there is so much going on under the skin that you can't see. I mean, you can't see the front suspension of a P6. It's all hidden.
No, hidden. You have to take the wings off to do anything to it.
Yeah.
But hidden features is also sort of almost another avenue of conversation. The hidden cars that never happened with Rover, because they had so many great ideas to push things forward.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've actually driven the P6 BS, the
have you?
mid-engine V8 sports car.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one actually. I would love to go in that car.
Yeah, that was a fascinating experience. It was a fascinating car. Spanking, trying to prove that you can have a powerful mid-engine sports car with good visibility. You look at the pillars; they're all super slim.
Yeah, and it's 4-wheel drive, wasn't it? Or was it only rear-wheel drive?
No, it was only rear-wheel drive, I think. But it had a
I'm going to have to interrupt.
sideways rear seat. Oh,
Not
we've
now.
lost Matt temporarily.
Sorry, interruption. The
Yeah.
door.
It
Yeah,
was almost like that moment on the news, wasn't it?
it's exactly that.
I've got a little dog yapping away in the background, so
Oh, really?
yeah. This
Oh,
is all right. We're maintaining the hubnet ideal.
excellent. Yeah, everything is slightly off key.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's one of those cars I'm desperate to have a go in one day. That's a beautiful idea. And did they kill it because they thought it was a threat to the E-Type, didn't they?
Yeah, I think just the timing was all wrong for it.
Mm.
I was reading up recently. Obviously, if you're not aware, head to aronline.co.uk. I think it is Keith Adams' wonderful
Mm.
website.
That's such
Read
a
up,
good
read
site.
up about stuff like the P8, the
Yeah.
P10, and all these blind alleys, some of which got so close to production,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then
The
killed
prototypes
off.
are rolling and driving. Motor Magazine even tested the P6B sports car as well, didn't they? They
Yeah.
did a road test.
Oh, the BS. Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
Rover just went. Yeah, take this prototype, drive it to Scotland. It's just
have fun. Yeah,
different time.
enjoy.
Yeah.
No, I do use AR Online a lot when I'm researching videos. I also have this incredible book. I'm not plugging it because I'm not selling it. It's just one of the best Rover resources
Is
you
that a
could ever
James
come.
Taylor one?
It is a James Taylor one.
Yeah,
Yes,
Anything he's written is generally worth a look.
exactly.
Yeah.
Incredibly, I've even done a Rover video and someone's argued in the comments about one of the facts I've got out of a James Taylor book, and I thought, you can't argue with this. This is as good as law.
Well, yeah, this is kind of the problem that I find quite often with history is people will have different opinions, and even
Yeah,
speaking to people who worked at the same company at the same time, they will have different views about what happened on a certain day. So
well,
trying to
yeah,
pick
this
the
is
truth out of
unfortunately
these
true.
things
Yeah,
always
it is
difficult.
unfortunately the case. Yeah, yeah, people are very bad witnesses.
Mm. Right, so
But
returning to our Rover timeline, we've kind of
yeah,
gone through SD1 now, so that means we're kind of making the jump into the 1980s and a very different
yeah,
Rover.
a Honda tie-up time.
Yeah, and to be honest, what I think is probably one of the best periods for Rover in some ways.
Actually, yes, yeah, because they got to retain their engineering, their style, their design, the great road holding, and interiors, but
Mm,
inject some reliability. So the cars were the absolute best. It's the opposite of the Alfa Ana.
yeah,
It's done perfectly. SD3, the R8, such good cars, such good
I think
cars.
the SD3 is vastly underrated, but then
Yeah.
I would quite like to drive one, but they've all vanished because they just rot so horribly.
Oh yeah, I think I know about 3 in the country, but no, I saw one in the car park once. I had no paper or pen on me to leave a note on the windscreen. I was
Mm,
considering keying in the paintwork my phone number, but I didn't think it would go down too well.
no, but doing the Van Plade of the test versions, really trying to make it a proper little
Oh
luxury
yeah,
car. I think that was a massive
absolutely.
stroke.
Yeah, but so keep the brand as an upmarket. Yeah, a cut
Mm.
above Ford isn't better than a Vauxhall. It's better than a Ford. Yeah. Maintain your place in the market.
And
No, it's
like you
genius.
say, SD3 led to R8, which
Yeah,
is a real highlight. I think. I think
it is.
Rover and Honda worked so well together on that car.
They both taught each other a lot. I was just
Mm,
reading up about it yesterday, funnily enough, for another video. And yeah, it's interesting how a guy called Suzuki, who worked at Honda, commented afterwards how the Rover people had taught them to design the packaging first, so work out where the engine and the people go, and then design a shell around it. Whereas the Honda way had been to design a shell, they knew what they looked like, and then squeeze everything in and work around the shape.
yeah.
And they sort of learnt to do that, which is quite an interesting comment.
Yeah. But it's a shame that relationship soured. But one of the
It
underdogs
was, yeah.
from that period for me has always been the 600.
Yes, yeah.
And
I drove one recently from India.
arguably, that's the one Rover had least involvement with, because by that stage, the relationship was souring. BMW were getting involved, and
Yeah.
so I'm aware again from Keith's website an awful lot on this. But the Rover engineers really couldn't do very much.
No,
Yet,
they were
yet,
quite hamstrung on that one.
yet
So
still,
yeah,
was it Richard Woolley, the stylist?
that's right. Yeah. I
Managed to
think you had
make
to
the
go.
600 look absolutely fantastic in a way the
Mm.
equivalent Honda Accord just didn't.
No, you got the proportions. The same shaped car, but the proportions are somehow different enough to make it really elegant. It's a
Yeah,
really
so
great looking thing. I did.
lovely
I
design
did.
finish.
Sorry. So go on.
No, go on. Sorry.
I was just driving. I did drive one for a review late last year, and it was such a nice thing. It was not like a P4, a car you don't want to throw around and hustle, but then you just enjoy it, and it feels very well made. The door shuts with a nice clunk, and the engine feels nice, and the transmission's good, and everything's just a calm, nice place to be.
Yeah, I'd say the only issue really is I do think the suspension suffers from mostly being Honda's work. They aren't quite as cosseting as you'd like from a Rover.
No, you drive a 400 and it's just a little bit more refined. You can still have that nice ride, but then if you hit a nice twisty road, you can drop a gear and still enjoy it in a way that a 600 doesn't want to do.
Yeah. So which engine did you have in the one you drove?
It was a 2-litre auto, I think I drove.
Right, because I've never driven a Honda powered one.
Okay. What was it? Hang on.
I've only driven the 2-litre turbo diesel because I owned one until it blew the gearbox up, and a friend's 2-litre petrol turbo, which is a very different animal. Yeah,
the turbo. Yeah, I've not driven the turbo petrol. That would be exciting.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then we get the 800 as well from that whole spin-off series.
I particularly like the Mark 1 800s. I think that's a gorgeous looking car.
It is. The angle.
Fastback form.
Yes. Chanel in England, they call it the fastback and all of that. Great advert from the 1988 or 89 period, would that have been?
Yeah, about that. Yeah. Beautiful. Of course, you got Tony Pond driving it around the Isle of Man as well.
Oh, yes. That was frighteningly fast. That's worth, if you're on YouTube and happen to have a bit of time on your hands at the moment, that's well worth investigating.
Yeah, the best thing about it is Tony Pond's sort of deadpan, oh yeah, I took this corner at 110 or whatever. He's just like, oh.
Yeah, he's barely conscious, is he? My tea's gone cold. 154 just there.
But cars, lots of potential, even though they're front-wheel drive.
It's a shame because it would have been a rear-drive car. But it's nice how the original ones, they look the same hard points of the car. It was such an angular car for the Mark 1, then suddenly became very rounded. For the second car, virtually the same panels, just everything smoothed off. But I think I like the Mark 1 more with those nice corners on it.
They did a good job of completely transforming a car that was very boxy. I mean, it's only a flat roof line that really gives it away.
Definitely.
Good redesign. I was never entirely comfortable with it, maybe because I could always see the original shining through. But
you know what's been done, so it's If you're coming to it fresh, though, you wouldn't really think about it because it was nice work. And they did something with the 200 as well, going from the R8 to the bubble Rover 200,
which
R3?
Is the
R3. That's it. Yes, the R3. Which did that keep the same chassis but different shell?
I think it kept the front end, but I think the back axle was more Maestro.
Yeah, might have been.
Kind of R8 front end, Maestro back end, and again they managed to sort of pull something really good out of a right mishmash of bits. So just typical Rover.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it? I read something sort of around the time, I'm sure, that it was designed. The exterior design was done by one of the youngest car designer ever to get a car to production.
Wow!
But I've no way of backing that up or adding facts to that statement.
I think a lovely looking car. I wasn't too sure about the front styling when it first came out, but I love the back end with the big rear lights and.
Yeah,
very distinctive.
I had one. I had a 216 SI in Nightfire Red, and I absolutely loved that car. I only sold it because I had a real hankering for an Alpha 146 for a long time, and one finally turned up on a forecourt, and I had to have it. And I didn't regret that because I love the Alpha as well. But I'm now looking on sort of Facebook Marketplace, and they keep turning up for £200 or £300, and
I love them in that metallic purple they came in.
Oh, Amaranth.
Yeah. Oh, just stunning.
Lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
I've only ever driven one, and it had the CVT gearbox.
Oh, really? No, I've not had the CVT. I'm not a fan of CVTs.
I do like a bit of CVT.
Oh, do you? A bit of CVT action.
Yeah. just for the peculiarity of it all.
Oh yeah, it's different, isn't it? It's nice if it's not an everyday car. It's fun to have something different, just to say, I've got this today.
Yeah.
But I think it had the same. Was it the PG1? It was the PG1 gearbox, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
seemed to just run literally everything. Didn't break in mine. I had a Freelander after that, a 2002 Freelander. The gearbox, I don't know if it's the gearbox or linkage, but yeah, that gearbox played up in that like crazy. And I couldn't change down gears in it. I had to go back to either first or a stop and then get the thing in. Oh, it's an awful. I went back under warranty so many times, and when the warranty ran out, I just sold the car because I couldn't be bothered with trying to sort it out any further.
Well, yeah, my biggest fail out driving was my Rover 600, which blew its PG1 gearbox to bits because that plastic differential cage.
Oh yeah, this is rubbish, isn't it?
It just broke up, and that was that. I had to get recovered, and the car ended up getting scrapped. It was frustrating.
Just not a
and I guess that's probably, especially in the latter period, probably from SD1 on, it is that quality issue that just frustrates so much. It's just like the Japanese can do these things properly. Why can't we?
Yeah, it shouldn't be difficult. It's you just screw a thing to a thing. Just make the two things made of good quality material.
Yeah. We're jumping ahead a bit, but I guess that's typified most strongly with the Project Drive and with the last days of MG Rover.
Reducing the number of trim behind the dashboard so it rattles, and
getting rid of spare wheels and all sorts.
Yeah, that was really was a death knell. You can't promote yourself as a quality car if your car is clearly lower quality.
No.
Shame. At the same time,
which I guess was kind of the problem with the Rover R3, the 200, was it was an odd size. In the same way that the Maestro had been a bit of an odd size, so the Maestro would often be competing on price with Super Minis, even though it was a bigger car.
Yeah, you should have been up against the Escort at the time, but it was a tiny bit smaller. And same with the 200 and the 400. They were never quite in the same category as the Escort or the Mondeo. It was a kind of in size that
hovering between.
Confused people. Yeah, so it was. Yeah, it put buyers off, I think, in that respect.
Especially as they tended to price against the larger car.
Exactly. Yeah, and so suddenly it looked like bad value. Yeah.
Trying to hope the quality would sell, but like you say, you can't use quality as a selling point if there's no quality.
Well, exactly. Yeah. You're back where you started. It wasn't until they were finally in the absolute end game when the 75 came out and it all came together, but not long enough.
Now, Rover 75, we should probably talk about. I'm probably not the biggest fan of them, so I'd be interested to know your views of 75s.
I like them. When they came out, my dad was just choosing a new company car because he's always been a company car driver since I was a child, really. And he had the choice of an X-Type, a 75, or something else. And I looked at them both, and I said go for the 75. Not because I'm a Rover fan, because I do like Jags as well. But I just thought the X-Type looked too pastiche old-fashioned, whereas the 75 looked retro, but in a kind of slightly cooler way.
Yeah.
And he went for it, and he did 200,000 miles over 3 years in it. Wow. And the only thing that failed on it was the water pump in the last month.
Blimey.
It was a nice car, and he did huge miles in it, and it always was. He never felt uncomfortable, and I rode in it a few times as a passenger, and it was always nice to be in. And I do actually quite like it. I think it's aged well.
I think maybe my dislike isn't so much aimed specifically at the 75. I think it's just because it feels too modern in too many ways. There's too much complexity. You've got the chunky pillars going on, so if you jump into a 75 from an 800, suddenly find you can't really see out of the thing.
Well, then that's true of any car built in, say, 2002 or whenever we're talking about those years, because suddenly crash safety and Euro NCAP became such a big thing.
Yeah.
You had to have side impact protection so much better, the car being dropped on its roof so much better, because that's become a thing. If it's a rollover accident, the roof can't like it used to. Yeah. We used to be fine with that.
So maybe it isn't that I dislike the 75. It's just that it's just of that era where my interest is starting to wane a bit. But yeah, I mean they're nice cars to drive.
Yeah, I think it's a good future classic as well, because they're not expensive at the moment, but I think they're starting to creep up as well for good ones, well maintained.
I think the problem there might actually be that they became a classic too soon. I mean, there's a huge club scene around them. So there's a lot already in preservation, and that might stop values going too crazy.
That's a really good point, actually, yeah. Yeah, because if Rover hadn't ended, it would just been like a Mark III Mondeo, which is worth £1,000 and
Yeah,
throw it away. Because there's
yeah.
a new Rover 85 now.
But I
But
think
yeah,
the styling has dated really well. Or it hasn't dated
yeah,
really. I think they're
no,
still
no.
a fine looking car.
And because it was kind of that timeless look, it didn't really blend in with anything else that was happening at the time. It
Mm,
didn't sort of follow the current trends, apart from being slightly retro, which was very hot at the time. It hasn't got an age to date back to, so it's just there.
yeah,
It's
but
just a
again,
thing in its own
a
right.
very good bit of design. I think that might have been
Mm.
Richard Woolley again, actually, on the
Yeah, I
75.
believe it might have been, actually. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, did he do the MG conversion as well on that?
No, the MG conversions, I think, were Peter Stevens.
Oh, they were, weren't they? Yes, you're
Yeah,
right, they were.
who facelifted the Lotus Esprit.
Yeah, he did a lot of fun things.
Mm.
Um,
'Cause, yeah,
another.
we haven't really talked about MG in a Rover sense, but obviously we've got the
Oh,
Metro, Maestro, Montego versions as well as the
yeah,
sort of
of course.
revisited versions later on, and both really successful, I think.
Oh, definitely, yeah, yeah, they did really well. I did hear an unsubstantiated rumor about the 75 becoming the MGZT, and under sort of the rules of the road, you can't have your indicator below a certain height from the road surface.
Ah,
And BMW dictated the height of the indicator in the 75 bumper, so they couldn't put it on lower suspension and do a sporting version of the 75 to compete with the 3 Series,
ah,
which is probably apocryphal
yeah,
and made up by someone who just told me this. But it's a great story for the pub.
yeah, and certainly they do have very low indicators. It's probably my least liked feature of the 75 is those little downturning indicators. I don't like those
Yeah,
ever so much.
very sad looking.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
MG front end is smarter.
yeah, it's a better, yeah, more cohesive, and
The
that's a
only
fun
way
thing as
the
well.
Rover wins is with the full sort of V8 grille. I think it all
Yes,
really comes together on those, and they definitely are going to become collector's items because there are so few of them.
yeah, yeah. I was offered one for not many £1,000s just after Rover collapsed, and I didn't have any spare money at the time. I think I was
Oh,
buying a house or something. And now it's one of the many, many cars I regret not buying. And what I should have bought is not a house, but just a big barn
yeah.
and a load of cars and just pushed them into the barn.
I think we all dream of the barn situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, everyone sees your unit and go, oh, he's got the dream. He's got a unit with 8 cars in it. Fantastic.
Yeah, but look at the cars.
Everyone's dream is different.
Yeah, yes, this is true, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's frustrating as hell at the moment because the unit is 50 miles away.
Yeah, I didn't realize it
Well,
so far. Was it close to your old house?
sorry?
Was it close to your old place, or just a good
No,
place that
it
turned up?
isn't that close to the old place either, but I'm now further away from it than I was. So, and
Yeah.
of course, we're effectively under a travel ban at the moment.
Well, yeah, yeah.
So I'm stuck away from my cars, which is very frustrating. But
Yeah, I was lucky. I brought everything that I could as close to home, so I've got I think 6 cars outside at the moment, and one of them the MOT is going to run out during the curfew, so I'm going to have to put an MOT'd car, which I don't want to work on out. Just juggle cars around and hope the neighbours don't mind me being out in the drive.
yes,
I'm
tricky times all round. Yeah,
it is awkward. It is awkward.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should probably think about wrapping this conversation up now.
I think I don't know how long we've been on. It must be half an hour or so. I think
We're getting on for it, yeah. So I guess we're going to have to. Do we try and pick favourites from Rovers' vast history?
Ooh. If I was being obvious, I'd have to say the P6 because I'm a big P6 nut. Even on my shelf behind me, I've got a P6 bonnet badge as a shelf ornament. Is that the best P6? Is that the best one though? Or should I go for the R8 because the R8 is brilliant?
Well, it's difficult because you've got an R8 as well, haven't you? You've got a Tomcat, and they've become massively rare.
They really have. I think the last numbers I checked on the internet was about 70 or so non-turbo 2 litres, which is what I've got, which is insane. Yeah, I can't believe that few left. It's a car I bought to flip 10 years ago and paid £100 for it, thinking I'd just get it going, get rid of it, and then have a quick profit, and then thought, actually, I quite like this car. And 10 years later, I'm still throwing money at it and having headaches when things like the back window smashed and you can't get them anymore.
Yeah, that is bad. That's actually happened to a friend of mine recently. He's got a Ford Sierra base.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the stone chip's taken out the rear window on that. So
what? Can you get asked for that?
Yeah, so that's not an easy find either.
No, I was lucky someone in the club had one,
Excellent.
I was talking to the insurance, and they said the insurance company, it's not a plug, I'll just say it's Haggerty, they were really, really helpful, but no one could find a new bit of glass. And it came down to the conversation that we will talk to Pilkington about making one, but it comes down to the cost of the car versus the cost of making a window from scratch.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, I'll just find a second-hand one, and they won't cover second-hand glass under insurance in case it just breaks in transit or anything, but they would cover the fitting. So we had that, and the cost of the glass was the same as my excess. So
is it a lift-back window on those?
No, it's not. It's a fixed window.
Oh, right.
Which makes it even more. It just broke in the night. We had a heavy frost and the window shattered.
Blimey.
So that was a shock. I thought there was just nightmare condensation when I looked out the window, because the whole window was that kind of crystalline look that you get when the window was. Good God, what's happened to my window? Why is it full of water? And looked at, that's not water.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
That's a serious problem. Yeah, and then I spent the morning trying to work out how to take bin bags over it and trying to make it waterproof, and then put a cover over it, and the cover set the alarm off because it flapped in the wind. And after about 2 hours, I realised that I'd got a garage with another car in it. I could just drive the car to park it indoors.
Good solution. But yeah, tricky times. So there you go. You're flitting between R8 and P6, and to be honest, I've been flitting between those two as well, because one sort of represents the engineering high point, and the other one, I think, is just a triumph against adversity in difficult times.
Yeah.
They might generate, Carver really did compete very well with the market at the time. I mean, it made Ford Mark V look positively old-fashioned.
Oh, it did, yeah. It made it like a terrible heap. Sorry, Ford owners.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble again. I don't hate Ford.
Maybe we should go in the middle and go for the P6BS, which is a combination of sporting, hope, triumph.
Yeah. The mighty could have been. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favourites and always has been. And every time I go to the British Motor Museum, that is a car I kind of make a beeline for.
I do as well. That and the Road Rover next to it, which we didn't even talk about the Road Rover.
No.
1952 Rover precursor.
Yeah, I believe. Didn't Classic and Sports Car do a feature on the Road Rovers fairly recently?
I think they might have actually.
They did actually dig them, because I think they've got 2 examples, and I think they might have dug both of them out for that. So.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I have to go and check on their back issues then.
Yeah, I might have to myself as well. But anyway, there we go. Nice loose conclusions, but yeah, a very enjoyable chat about Rovers. So,
and to you too.
Yeah, well, I hope you've all enjoyed our little chat. Obviously, we're struggling to create content at the moment because of effective lockdown, although you've got your car, so at least you can tinker with them.
I've got welding on the Alpha, and I've got an engine to build, and I've got, plenty of things to do.
Plenty to do. Make sure you check out Matt's channel, Furious Driving, and at some point we'll have another chat, and we'll post a chat on your channel as well.
I look forward to it.
Excellent.
And nice to talk to you.
Yep, speak to you again.
Stay out of trouble.
Farewell.
See you soon. Bye.
And there we go. While we're in lockdown, fresh content is a little hard to provide. The GSA has been sat here since Friday. It's currently Wednesday. This is ever so frustrating. But yeah, if you'd like to see more of these videos, if you enjoyed this one, leave comments below and let me know. Let me know who you'd like me to speak to. Let me know what topics you'd like covered. And I'll see what we can do in some future videos. Until then, farewell. Oh, I will just say the shop is still trading at the moment while the post office is still open. We may have to review that, obviously. In rural Wales, it's quite easy to minimise contact because most times you go to the post office, there's no one there, and the staff are behind glass, so it's actually fairly safe at the moment, but obviously we will review that. But yeah, look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell.